Hello, my name is Charles Linden. I'm Director of Linden Tree Education, and since 1996 myself and my psychology team have been helping hundreds of thousands of people from around the world to overcome what I call conditions of the emotions. They include things like anxiety disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, monophobia, OCD, PTSD, derealization, depersonalization, health anxiety, emetophobia, eating disorders, self-harming, in fact, any manifestation of inappropriate emotional responses. But today I want to talk to you specifically about bullying. I'm going to be very off the cuff and very fluid in my explanation because I think it's vital that you understand that this comes from the heart. It comes from the heart of somebody who suffered from anxiety conditions from the age of 4 to the age of 26, and from the heart of somebody who has experienced extreme bullying at the hand of both adults and children. When I was at school, despite being a rugby player and a rower and being relatively physically fit and quite big, I was bullied by teachers and children all through my school life. And it was horrific. In fact, it resulted in the activation of my fear disorders and for 22 years of emotional turmoil, medication, psychotherapy, hypnosis and all kinds of things that just failed me completely and led me absolutely nowhere. In 1996, I discovered a way to recover from these conditions, and we now have an organisation that communicates that recovery process to people all over the world. Bullying is probably the most misused and misunderstood word, certainly in childhood years, but all through adulthood too. Every day we have people of all ages coming to us talking about how they're being bullied. And there are some people that come to us, a large proportion of the people that come to us, that don't understand that they too are being bullied. They just don't understand it in context. Before I start anything else though, before I start talking about bullying as a social concept, if you like, as a social issue, I want to talk to you about the neurology and the physiology of the human brain and about why people are susceptible to bullying. Because it's so easy to assume that these people are frail or silly or require some kind of guidance through inappropriate means from people who shouldn't be giving them guidance. Now, like I said, there are adults that are bullies, there are teachers that are bullies, there are parents that are bullies, but there are also children that are bullies, and there are also young adults that are bullies. And of course, we all hear in the media about how this bullying affects people. And it can be just, from relatively mild mental health issues like anxiety or panic attacks or agoraphobia or OCD, school phobia, or it can be some major manifestations of those conditions like eating disorders and self-harming, attempted suicide and conditions like that. Now, it doesn't matter where on that spectrum or, the disorder manifests, whether it's mild or severe. The person has at some point has activated an inappropriate emotional response at the hands of somebody else. Now let me get this, if you're a bully sat there listening, and maybe you know you're a bully, maybe you don't know you're a bully, let me explain what a bully is. A bully is somebody who, without provocation, now get this right, because some people feel provoked by the size of somebody's parents' car or the holiday they've been on or what hairstyle they happen to choose or the clothes they wear or some other physical manifestation. Now, whether you choose those things as the catalysts for your bullying or not is irrelevant. The point is you are giving somebody inappropriate, negative attention, and you are applying to them something that they do not wish to have applied to them. That is bullying. The one thing that you can never, ever predict or in any way control is the way that somebody will respond to something, okay? So if you're in the street and there's a great big guy walking towards you and you walk up into his face and swear at him, you're probably going to get punched or at least shouted at, okay? So you're aware of the consequences in that close proximity form of attack. Now, just because you're separated by cyberspace from somebody doesn't mean that you have the safety and the right to in some way provoke an emotional response in that person. In the same way as you wouldn't walk up to somebody bigger than you and provoke them in the street, you shouldn't be doing it to somebody of any size remotely through social media or through any other means. Okay? Because that is exciting and creating a negative emotional response in that person. Now let me explain something very clearly to you. There are some people that can walk into a pub, buy a bag of peanuts and eat the entire bag and stay relatively calm and safe. There are some people that can walk into a pub and they can touch somebody's hand that has touched a peanut, go into anaphylactic shock and die. Now, the one thing that we can never, as humans, calibrate for or understand in any way is how somebody's going to respond to something. They may know, but they may not communicate that to you. Okay? So in the same way as somebody can eat a peanut and die, and maybe that's not you, maybe you don't have a peanut allergy, somebody can respond very, very acutely when somebody says or does something to them that is perceived by their brain as threat. And it doesn't matter what that is. On Sunday, I went to a leaving celebration, a cricket match for a teacher that was leaving my children's school. A phenomenal teacher. And he will always be remembered by every pupil that he's taught over the last 40 years at that school. And he'll be remembered for one reason. And he said it himself. When asked why he's a good teacher, he said the two things he cited as the reason for him being a good teacher were, one, no conflict. He said, if you don't have conflict with the people around you, including the pupils, you will always be equal to them, and they will always perceive you as equal, and they will always respect you and talk to you in the way you, or pretty much always respect you and talk to you in the way you'd expect them to be talked to. Now, of course, there are going to be exceptions to that. There are going to be angry people. There are going to be people who are not in mental stability. There are always going to be exceptions to the rule, but ultimately what you generally give out, you get back. So if you're a bullying teacher that shouts, that is aggressive in their manner, in their look, in any way, what are you going to get back? You can't expect to get a positive reflection of your emotional responses. You cannot. Most of the time you're going to get somebody who either ignores you, who is rude back to you, aggressive back to you. There's going to be some negative interaction. Because like I said before, you can never calibrate how somebody's going to respond. But like this teacher said, the two things that are most important are no conflict and also passion. Passion for teaching. Because there are teachers and there are educators. And as you pass through life, you'll realise this. There are some people that gain the respect of their pupils and students because there's no conflict and they're equal and they're calm and they're generous in their time and in their emotions. And there are people who are just teachers. They're not educators, they're just teachers. People who throw facts at people and expect them to just learn them. Despite no modification of the teaching principles or the teaching style, just, here are the facts, I'm throwing them at you, collect them and use them. That's not teaching, that's not an educator, that's just somebody who has facts and in some way tries to communicate them with you. I had that at school, it was horrific. I was bullied by the teachers. They were absolutely horrific and physically and verbally bullied. I was called fatty. I was made to stand on chairs and turn around so they could see how fat I was. I was made to read things out when I was having panic attacks. All manner of things. People dropped their keys. Teacher dropped his keys and would kick me. Another teacher punched me in the mouth on sports day as he ran past me. I was generally physically and mentally abused through my whole school career. Why? Who knows? Because I was different. I was the round peg and I wasn't fitting in their square hole. And again, they didn't modify their behaviours as adults and teachers. They expected me to shy away, stay quiet. By the time I was 14, I was on antidepressants. I was seeing the doctor regularly. I was having panic attacks. I had OCD from the age of 4. I was a mental and physical wreck. Despite that, I still went to school. I still achieved relatively well academically. I played rugby and I rode and I grew in stature. So people started to leave me alone and I started fighting my corner. But it was always with that anxiety disorder, hidden away inside of me and coming out regularly and being hidden by me on the school bus or the school trip or the skiing holiday, but suppressing my fear in a way that I shouldn't had to have done. So we can never calibrate how somebody's going to respond to us. So if you're a bully and you're in the playground or if you're in the workplace and you walk up to somebody or you in some way communicate with somebody in your bullying way and you say things that provoke a negative emotional response in that person, you are a bully. Now if that person then goes away and self-harms or develops an anxiety condition, that's on you. That's not on anybody else. That's not on them. That's not about their frailty. That's about you applying to that person something that they don't wish for and that they certainly don't want to feel in any way. You're doing that. You have to take responsibility for however that person feels, however they respond. Now, if ultimately, which has happened recently in the town that my children go to school a young lad jumped off a car park and took his own life because of social media bullying, and nobody had a clue. Nobody knew. His parents didn't know, his doctor didn't know, his friends didn't know. He just took himself off and threw himself off a car park because he was being bullied. Now, whose responsibility is that? Was that him? Well, you could say he took action himself, and so his actions led to his demise, and that's horrific. But what led him to the emotional state? What led him to that point where his emotional responses were so flat that he no longer cared for himself and he no longer cared for the people around him? Who took him there? Because whoever it was that took him to that point is responsible for that young person's death. And there have been a lot of examples of this just recently, and it is horrific. When you walk up to somebody and you say something mean, even if you say it's just banter, and I am sick and tired of hearing this justification for bullying. It's just banter. It's not just banter. You might think it's banter, you might perceive it as banter, but the person you're attacking may not. And if they don't, for any reason, if they don't process that data through their senses, because all data enters through our senses, our eyes, ears, nose, mouth and skin. Those are our data collectors, our peripherals, like the mouse and the keyboard and the scanner that's connected to a computer. We are constantly collecting, from the moment of our birth, packets, even before then in fact, packets of data that go in through our senses, and they get utilised by the subconscious as information. They may give rise to an emotional response. They may give rise to a physical response. In fight or flight, which is the fear response, they give rise to adrenaline release and all of the things that we perceive when we experience fear or anxiety and the condition that is anxiety. But ultimately, what we take in through our senses is what gives rise to neurological response. And what we eat and what we drink gives rise to response too in the endocrine system, as those things are processed by the body, metabolized and used to fuel our body. Anything we ingest, be it data or substance, is metabolized. And it can be metabolized sometimes correctly and sometimes incorrectly. And when it's incorrect, it becomes disorder. And fear disorders, anxiety, is a disorder. It's not an emotion. Nobody should ever feel anxiety. People should feel fear when it's appropriate, when there's a real fear there. But if you're creating fear in somebody, when it's unprovoked and unnecessary, you're a bully. There is no other word for it. You're a bully. You are as bad as somebody who inflicts any kind of damage on another human or even an animal. In fact, in any way, you're a bully. If you do that to somebody, you have to take ownership of that. Only you can take ownership of it. Now, you might be sat there listening to me thinking to yourself, Charles, shut up. I'll bully who I like. People who inflict unnecessary emotional damage to somebody aren't just bullies. They're either intellectually subnormal, they're either intellectually impaired in some way, or they're born just plain evil, and where that comes from, I don't know. Or alternatively, they could have some kind of mental health issue. But those are the only three justifications for behaving in this way. If you give out good, you get good back. We live in a world of echoes. If you shout something bad in a deep valley, you'll get something bad back. If you shout something nice, you'll get something nice back. If you use that principle, apply that principle to your life, and in every second of every minute of every hour that you are alive, you give out good and you try to do good, you'll get good back. But mark my words, I'm 50 years of age, and in my life I've seen a lot of bullies. They always get their comeuppance. They always get their comeuppance. Now you might say, okay, well, you know, if somebody comes up to, if somebody starts, you know, poking at you or in some way harming you on a relatively low level, and you respond, does that make you a bully? If you're online and somebody starts poking at you online, if somebody starts saying things about you that aren't real, and that provokes some kind of avalanche of nastiness, say on social media, who's at fault? Is it the person sat there taking all of this, or is it the perpetrator? I get this a lot on social media. People come on and they'll say something like, well, you know, your program didn't work for me, so it can't work for anybody else. So what is that person? Why are they sat there thinking that their negative comments about their lack of success with something is in some way going to inspire or help somebody else? Because thousands and thousands of people have been helped, significantly helped and cured by our programs. So why does one person feel the necessity to see a post and put something negative like that on? It's harassing. It's not defamatory. They can say what they want, but why would they? If you haven't got anything good to say, don't say it. It's simple. I know a lot of published authors around the world through Hay House and through other publishing organisations, and I know a lot that have had books on Amazon, for example. Do you know, I know published authors that have taken, I don't know them personally, but I know of published authors that have taken their lives because their competitors have decided to launch a very choreographed attack on their good name through Amazon, through all these public forums. I've been subjected to it myself. You know, many of these places don't monitor who has and who hasn't read a book. They just allow any bod sat there in their pajamas or their pants at their computer to post the most horrific stuff about people when they have no idea what they're talking about. But of course other people come along and believe this rubbish. And this is why they do it, of course. Anybody that does that is just plain evil. It is just so unnecessary. I know a lot of people that I help through corporate anxiety and stress elimination that have been bullied by bosses, bullied by co-workers. And I mean bullied. And I don't just mean sexist comments or nasty comments about their appearance. I mean actually, you know, physically attacked and then told to shut up or more would come. Anybody who does that should be condemned for it. The law is now tightening up on this, of course, with cybercrime, you know, and with defamation harassment, and the Harassment Act itself has been modified to bring in cybercrime like cyber stalking and cyberbullying and defamation and all of those things. They're all being brought in together very slowly because they're very resource poor, but it is changing and good. It should change. Because, you know, you never know how somebody's going to respond to bullying. And it always seems to me that if you respond to bullying, you're the one that's going to get into trouble. So if you are being bullied, what you need to do is go to the authorities. Now, if you work in a corporate setting and you're being severely bullied by somebody, you can go to your bosses and hopefully they'll take action. And then they should take action by law because they have a duty of care for you. If you're in a school, you need to go to the school nurse or the pastoral care person at the school and tell them. Failing that, you go to the police and you tell them exactly what is happening to you, because they have been given government authority to act on bullying and to stop this happening. Children don't need to take their lives. Young people don't need to take their lives. Adults don't need to take their lives because of this. You know, life is difficult enough without anybody inflicting this kind of damage on them. So I urge you all to take action against bullies. All of you. The bullied, take action. Those who perceive or see bullying in the workplace or in the school, take action. If you see anything, take action. Do not let it pass. Because I'm telling you, there are hundreds of children around the world every day harming themselves and taking their lives. Not just children, but adults and young people as well, of all ages, are taking their lives and are being absolutely driven to the edge of their lives by this harassment and this bullying. And it is disgusting. It's got to stop. There's got to be a zero tolerance policy across society for this, because I am sick of seeing how it affects people. Okay, rant over. When you feel that somebody is in some way having negative attention drawn to them or receiving negative attention from anybody, you can even write to us. You can even contact our staff if you like. If you see anybody who is suffering from anxiety, go and talk to them. Find out what the catalyst has been, not the cause, because the only cause of anxiety conditions is the predisposition to suffer. It isn't the life circumstances that give rise to the first high-level emotional response, in this case fear. Those are just the catalysts, regardless of what they are. If you know somebody who's suffering from anxiety, come to us, talk to us, speak to the team. Our anxiety recovery specialists are BPS and BACP members. They are psychotherapists and psychologists who work in practice to help people to completely wipe out these disorders caused by this kind of behaviour and by other things, of course. So come to us, but take action. Do not allow bullying to affect anybody. And certainly if you know any children that are being bullied, take action today. Don't wait. Don't think that there's going to be negative consequences on you. Don't think the school's going to say, you know, call your parents and it's all going to be... You will be able to live your life satisfied that you have taken the correct action to help somebody to potentially save their lives. Okay? But we're here to help if anybody needs help. You know where to contact us. Take care.